Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I'm Paul Franz, owner of Franz Games. I run SFU Online, FedCom Online, and Starfleet Warlord. Just a minute how join us. We have TalkCast every Thursday night starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can either call on the phone, just dial 605-562-0444. Just follow the directions. And the call ID is 17702. Or you can participate on the web. Just go to the Talk's website at www.talkshoe.com. Search for call ID 17702, or you can search for SFU On Call or Starfleet Universe On Call. You will find us there. Now, if you want the best online experience, what you want to do, you want to head over to twitch.tv, twitch.tv/SFU On Call. You can join us for the live show every Thursday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And you can join the chat room and have a good old time. It's quite a nice experience. There are plenty of people there, and it's not, and the more the merrier, as they say. So that's that. And also, just a reminder that if you're going to contact me for any reason, my email address is sfuoncall@gmail.com. That's sfuoncall@gmail.com. Also, if you want to follow me on Twitter while it still exists, you can follow me on SFU On Call. Yeah, that's SFUONCAL. And of course, my personal account, Paul Franz, PAULFRANZ. There's no T in that. Don't ask. And of course, there's my business account, which is Franz Games, which you can keep up to date with the latest updates when it comes to the client and new Warlord games and all that. Just follow that one if you want to do that. Now, this lovely TalkCast gets turned to a podcast available on iTunes and various other feeds around the net, including YouTube. And of course, there's quick news from A to B this week. There's two new products. Well, okay, not quite new. They're updated products. We have a newly updated 2023 version of the Module R1. They have an updated 22-page rulebook. It's now available both in e-book form and in physical form. You can find it in the normal e-tailers, Drive-Thru RPG, Warehouse 23, and Board Game Vault. And that's where you can find the e-book form. Also, another product that's just been updated is Federation Empire Advanced Operations to 2022. Yeah, they finally got it out. I know it's 2023, but they created it in 2022. It's available both in print and ebook form. The ebook form is actually only $15, and if you want the physical copy, it is $40. Don't know what's in the physical copy, whether it's just the rulebook or it actually has counters, which then would explain the expensiveness of it. And moving onward and forward, some quick news when it comes to tournaments. We actually have a reminder. There will be a tournament on May 5th. This is going to be a physical, in-person tournament. It's going to be the fourth SFB Toronto Championship is going to be played on May 5th. This is going to be at the Royal Canadian Legion, Branch 10, at 1083 Pape Avenue in Toronto, Ontario. It goes from Friday through Sunday from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. on May 5th, 6th, and 7th. Entry fee is $10 for just a single day, or if you want the full tournament, you pay $20. That is going to be run by Sebastian. Sorry, this is Sebastian Pelosi. So there are many fun champions from the previous years, including Tim Linden. If any of you have played at Origins, Tim Linden is always there. We also had Costa Palos, and that's in 2016, and Tim Linden won in 2018 and 2019. So it was quite a nice tournament. If you're in the Toronto area and around May 5th, please feel free to join them and play some wonderful SFB against some wonderful players. Moving onward to the online tournaments, we have, of course, the Sapphire Star 13 tournament. There's been, I think, 7 to 8 turn 1. Sorry, round one games have been completed, and we're waiting for one game to be completed for that, and then we'll go on to the next round. Obviously, for those of you who've been listening to me last week, you found out that I lost. So that happens. But I wish my opponent good luck in future rounds. When it comes to the online client, just to let you know, the 4.5 version has been released officially for all platforms, so that you now can download it and install it and update to that. You can see the updates. That I did announce it. Actually, I did not announce it on the discussion board. I did announce it on Facebook, and I did announce it on the mailing list. Yes, there actually is a mailing list. It's a Google mailing list, and I forgot to post it up on Twitter. I will be doing that this weekend, so that she'll be able to see some of the updates. It's been a while in coming. Obviously, some of the things are the tracking feature that I added not too long ago, in theory. Some fixes when it comes to FedCom, when it comes to the fire button. Some of that caused by missing support for different weapons for ships. If there's a weapon that's being used, it's on a ship definition, and I don't define the weapon, then you can't fire. You can't fire if you have that ship added. So if that happens to you, please tell me immediately so I can fix it at any time. Also, the dark mode was also added to the client. You have a dark theme, so that for those people who like dark, that will be a great benefit. Moving onward and forward, when it comes to library report, not much happening there, though. From my understanding from Frank, I will be getting updates in the next couple weeks. Actually, I got an email from him yesterday or today. I can't remember which, but there's some updated or new definitions. I don't quite know which. In some of the Gorns that he was going to be working on, and he sent me a batch, and I need to process them and then add them or update them in the library itself. So we'll actually be seeing some updates. We actually have some updates. The FedCom library, Chris Newsy, has actually sent me a collection, and I need to add them to the library. So with that is the news for this week. Welcome to Starfleet Universe On Call. I am Paul Friends, and you're not. So, hey, always a good way to start.
It's a blessing for which we all count twice every single day.
Yep.
More ways than one. And welcome to Thursday Night Live, apparently.
Complete with audio pratfalls.
Live from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Thursday Night Live.
Okay, let's go there. Don't mind me, I'm there. Okay, cool. I'm good now. I got it so that I actually can watch my Twitch channel on Twitch, on my and the Twitch app on my iPad, so I don't have to go to the browser.
That's what I end up doing.
Okay. Yeah, well, previously I had an issue where basically if I tried to do that, what would happen is that I couldn't do it. And it was only for now they actually have a creator mode. So if you're actually acting as a creator, because it's my channel, I can then go and do certain things. Well, in this case, I'm assuming in creative mode I could stream directly from my iPad. But what's the point of that? Because then I couldn't do talk show and other things, couldn't share the screen of my laptop. I'd actually have to bring up my iPad, and it might be good for something when it comes to being a mobile setup, but not when I'm sitting in my house. So don't mind me. Okay. For those of you on the video, you'll notice that I was just looking around. I was looking around for one orange kitty, which I'm sure those who watched the video are more than familiar with. The question is whether he will be joining us this evening. He tried to join me earlier, and I had to put him down. I was like, wait a minute, let me first do the news portion of the podcast. Because these days it's a little more complicated because of I'm doing also as a video too. But actually I'm doing a video and an audio recording at the same time. Audio recording is separate from the video. I'm not actually using the audio track from the video because this means more work. When it comes to that means I have to extract it and all kinds of fun stuff. It's like no thank you. It'll just slow me down because I have to extract it from the video. Then I can then trim it, because there's some things I want to trim from the audio that I don't want to be trimmed from the video, or too lazy. Let's put it that way. But,
and this behind the baseball moment is brought to you by Whiteout. Mistakes look on purpose.
Amen. But of course, those of you far and near, when it comes to if you live in the United States, then you know what today is. Today is opening day for baseball. And if you didn't know that, shame on you. It's America's pastime. Come on, let's get on board here. Football means nothing. Football's nothing. So I'm sure I can hear something.
Yeah, Erica just said.
Dead to me. It's all right. I still like the boys this summer. We got a minor league team that I used to enjoy really spending a lot of time at the stadium watching, but hadn't been able to do that in a while.
Understood. Yeah, that's one thing which is always kind of crazy for me, kind of, and that is I am an O's fan. So, O's. And because of that, makes things interesting, because of the local team is actually a Philadelphia affiliate. So, when the Orioles affiliate, the Bay Sox, come to town, I actually root for the Bay Sox, while all the rest of the time I'm rooting for the Fightin' Phils. So it always feels weird when I'm sorry, I feel like it's my duty as an O's fan to root for the O's affiliate. So makes things interesting. But because
just root for both teams at the time.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. In the same game, rooting for both teams at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. The spirit of sportsmanship. Yeah, there you go.
Understood. Yeah, that's one thing I've done actually in past games, which is I have this fanciful thought, which I'm not sure if I'll ever do. I might. It's possible I might wait until after I'm retired to do, which is being an umpire. And one thing I do with the AA games is I don't expect ever to be at AA. I might do some high school ball, but that's about it. But I try to focus on the umpires and a little less on what's going on in the game. But unfortunately, I'm so big of a baseball fan, it's hard to pay attention to what I'm supposed to pay attention if I was an umpire. Because the umpires, they're not.
That's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's rough. You've got to watch. You've got to watch careful, but you can't really enjoy.
Right, and here's the thing: as an umpire, the expectation is that you will not just watch the players and watch what they're doing, but also anticipate what is going to happen.
Yep.
Because that's part of an umpire's job. You know, if you got the batter hits it deep in, let's just say center field, but the center fielder doesn't catch it. Okay, and then there's a guy on first. Where's he going to go? Most probably he's going to go to third. What that means is that depending upon how many umpires you have, if you have 3 umpires, you're fine because the home plate umpire is fine. He can stay where he is, while the third base umpire is going to focus on third base. But in that situation, it's possible that, and also that means the first base umpire should be coming to around second, so he can keep an eye on any play that's going to happen, because the play's not going to be at first base. The play is most probably going to be on second base, depending upon where the ball is. So this is where the first base umpire has to know, okay, will that ball be thrown in? You know, or is there a good possibility? Versus, you know, it just being a single, and you know any play is going to be at first base. Because actually, in that case, what would happen, I would think, is that the first base umpire should go to second. The home plate umpire might have to move towards first base, but not completely be devoid of home plate, because in that case, there is still a possibility that the guy who's running the third can come running home, in which case the play is going to be at the plate. This is the nutty stuff that the umpires have to be thinking about. You know, anticipating where the play is going to be. And some of that comes totally purely from experience. You know, and that's one thing I was reading. I actually had the rules for high school baseball. Read through the whole thing. Actually, I even read, there was another one, which is a book which helps explain the rules that in more easy to read fashion. Because some of the rules, when you read them, like, what? And the tough part I find about the rules is memorizing them. Because this becomes basically your Bible. You have to memorize these rules, know them up and down and sideways. And that's not exactly, Yes, Doug, who's on first? That's on second. I don't know who's on third.
Ba-da-bum.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know Iggy. Sorry, I got started. It's opening day of baseball season. That's why I'm going to talk about baseball for a little bit. And it's my podcast, and if you don't like it, I'll take my ball and go home. Wait, I'm already at home.
As long as you leave the glove, though, we'll be all right.
Yeah, but anyway, you know, that's the tough part. So, and for high school umpires, it can be insane. Why? Because in a lot of cases in high school ball, you are the only umpire for the whole game.
Yep.
If you're lucky, there might be 2. For AA ball, there's usually 3. When it comes to Major League, there's usually 4. When it comes to like playoffs, there's 6. Because you got two on the first baseline, 2 in the third baseline, 1 right around third base, the other one in the outfield. You know, and same with the first base side. And then you have, of course, the guy behind second plate, and you got your home plate umpire. Which, no matter what happens, here's the one thing that they talk about, you know, electronic. Hey, the Orioles won today. They beat the Red Sox 10-9. Almost lost, but they still won. Um, even if they ever when they, because the plan is to actually have electronic umpire for calling balls and strikes, which can then be challenged um, immediately by either the pitcher, I think the pitcher, the catcher, or the batter. But it has to be done immediately. But anyway, and then the human umpire then calls whether it was a strike or a ball. Even if all the calling of the balls and strikes done by electronically, you're still going to need a guy behind home plate because there's always going to be plays at home plate, and therefore you're always going to have an umpire at home plate. Yeah, umpires aren't always right, but they're never wrong. Well, actually, that's one thing that opinion has actually softened to a certain degree. That umpires have there are been some incidents where umpires have actually, after all said and done, they went, I got that wrong. And that's one thing I still remember. Buck Showalter. He's a guy who knows the rules, frontward and backward. So, anyhow, now getting to the topic at hand. After talking about the Orioles and baseball. By the way, Orioles won. Boston, of course, lost because Orioles were playing Boston. The Yankees won. Forget who they were playing. Actually, what was interesting to me, one last thing about baseball, and that's going to be it. What was interesting to me was that today, the Blue Jays from Toronto, they played against the St. Louis Cardinals, which to me is an interesting way of starting the year, which is basically doing an interleague game to start the year. I think that's just interesting, because it normally doesn't. I would think you'd want to start. You would want to avoid that situation, but it is what it is. It's going to be interesting this year just because of all the rules changes, and of course the change in schedule where you're going to be less games you're going to play against divisional opponents. So it should make things quite interesting. But anyhow, to get to the topic for tonight, that's actually SFU related and not baseball related. And that is, I've talked about this before, and it's interesting topic I think to come back to, which is the topic is the never-ending campaign. Now, the question is about never-ending campaign is, what is the goal? Because in the past, if I recall correctly, and it's been a while since I've done that episode, my first episode when it comes to that, which was, when it comes to never-ending campaign, is the idea of like single matchups, i.e. something like, what is it? I think is it Star Trek Online? I think it might be Star Trek Online. That has it so they just start with one ship, and you go around and you go to this planet, that planet. You can pick up resources, you pick up bonuses. These boxes that have all this kind of additional material, and fight off the number of ships to get this, save planets and things like that. Now, that's all good and dandy if it's a single player campaign, which is nice. But the question is going to be, what is the goal of the campaign? I'm so, never ending campaign. There is no end. There's no victory condition.
About the only thing that makes sense for is when what you're trying to do is not so much have a winner or a loser campaign style, but you're trying to figure out, okay, since you fought this battle last week, this is who you have to fight this week, and turn around and have it as a means to have a continuing 5-year mission kind of feel to the way you're playing around, possibly with crew and or officer experience.
Mm-hmm. What? Yes, Doug.
Well, I'm thinking that the biggest question is, how do you end up with a never-ending campaign? I mean, what's the sandbox that you're putting it in?
Right. Agreed.
That's the starting point, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Are you talking about Starfleet Warlord? Are you talking about Fed and Empire campaign? I mean, because a Fed and Empire campaign would have a definite start point,
right?
But it may not have an end point.
This sounds to me more along the lines of
the question is, what are you trying to build in the first place? I mean, if you're going to have something where I have to fight XYZ next time, single ship combat kind of setup or scenario, that's like an extended captain's game where you could just randomly generate the next scenario. But really, I need it put in I would need that put in a better context of exactly what are you trying to do, in what scale, and in what game.
Mm-hmm.
This does sound like a section uniform campaign rather than something more strategic, like say some version of the Admiral's game, Federation and Empire, or any of the other large scale rapid time conflict systems. Because if you're on the strategic scale, it's hard to turn around and rebalance after every session so that no one side obliterates the other.
Right.
Or even are all the players? How do the players fit into it? That's where the question. Are you a captain of a single ship, or are you like an admiral in charge of a bunch of ships? Are you like the warlord that's looking to expand some territory? Yeah. So, I mean, that's just kind of a question there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I agree. I agree. That brings up an excellent point, because the question is going to be, what is the one resolution? How our combat's done, and and scale. That's what we're talking about. Really, is scale. Is it going to be that you're an individual captain, as you pointed out, and you're going around from place to place, or warp to this location, this location, this location, and you fight either a monster or you fight another opponent, or things like that, and if you're doing that, what is the combat resolution system for whether you're successful or fail? How that individual scenario is played out. Is it simple? If it's a captain, obviously, in my mind anyway, that you'd want that to be have it so that the captain scenario, you're actually playing out a game. You're playing the one-on-one combat or the one-on-many combat, whether it's versus monsters or versus another player. And if you're doing that as a never-ending campaign, the question then comes into being is, you might end up having an issue where a player, because obviously if you have a never-ending campaign, the players are going to get more. The whole idea is going to be getting more and more powerful ships, or maybe have the ability to have multiple ships to play in combat. This is your squadron. You start with a single ship, and now you have, you build up to have 3 ships. In which case, you start beating on everything that's out there. And if you have a veteran player versus a rookie, a guy who just started playing, which has 1 ship, he's just going to be beat up all the time. And in that case, especially if it's all on the same strategic board, at least, let's say strategic board, because the strategic board doesn't have to be, hex based. You're going to travel 5 hexes. It might just be more of, was it dark? I forget. Ran by Dale. Dark something. But basically, the whole idea is that you had planets or these spaces where you warped from one place to another. So that was the strategic board. And actually, the interesting part about that game was the network of where the warp gates took you to. It was a web of places, and only Dale knew exactly the map of those places. So, they said the question would be, is it something like that where you have a single player building up over time? Obviously, you might have the same issue with fleets if you do something along the lines of Starfleet Warlord, where individual combat resolution is automatic. The goal is to explore. Now, if it's a never-ending campaign, you just can build up your fleets larger and larger and larger and larger. So there has to be some way of limiting those fleets. Now, one thing that we have in Starfleet Warlord itself is we have a limitation on your total number of ships that you can have. We limit you to a number of 250 ships. After that, then you have to start. What happens is that you scrap older ships and then you just build newer ships that are more powerful than the ships that you previously had to scrap. And for Starfleet Warlord games, these are not never-ending campaigns. What they are is like 30-turn campaigns, and even then, you got people pretty far and wide. But again, the big thing with that, though, is that each sector for Starfleet Warlord itself they have a limited number of sectors in the whole game. You might have a 10 by 10 map board. So you have 10 by 10 sectors. So you have a total of 100 sectors, but you have 16 to 25 players filling all this space. So it definitely can't be never ending, because at some point some player is going to get so large that it's going to he's just going to take over. If we instead of limiting it to like 30 turns, we say, oh, you're going to go for maybe 100 turns. Or at the very least, you're going to have the ultimate wars of these large corporations. That's what they are. Starfleet Warlord, they're called corporations. So they're going to have,
Starfleet Warlord sounds like it's fairly well balanced for such a thing. The problem with any kind of so-called never-ending campaign is you've always got to balance player engagement versus whatever they get out of it. If it's just the thing you do every Saturday, then then the flavor might not matter all that much. But if one side is habitually getting the better side of the coin, uh, you run out of dead meat pretty quick that way. Ask any AAA football team. There's only so many times it's fun to watch Texas play Rice, even if Rice does occasionally manage an upset.
Understood. Understood. Yeah, to me, the question when it comes to never-ending campaigns, or even just let's just say, here's a good example: Dungeons and Dragons, and that is
Yeah.
when you have a group of players that go through these dungeons. They have a GM, which they have running campaigns. But the thing is, those players get more weapons, more magical items, more stuff, so they become more and more and more powerful. The question is,
Well,
when
if I
do
may.
yes?
Yeah. It's a matter of player expectation. What does the player want out of the thing? What is the GM going to give them? What is the referee in the long-term campaign going to do? Because I've run long-term campaigns in role-playing games, and I've been in parts of campaigns that were kind of like not necessarily structured but D&D campaigns, and really what it comes down to is the overall continued engagement of the player within that world, because we're going to start getting into areas of, well, power creep and power this and big magic item that. It's not all about that in every respect.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing could be translated into an SFB universe kind of thing.
Right.
In running a long-term campaign, and it wasn't never ending because, I had to do things like go back in the Army and stuff like that.
Right.
But it was really a matter of kind of meeting the expectations of the players, and the players engaged in that world on a social level as well as in a let's just get all the biggest items kind of level. That makes sense. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Not to mention the fact that when you drop toys like.
But
Sorry,
it's
go
not
ahead.
all about the toys all the time. The toys are part of the world that you live in, and they're a necessity for players to fight the bigger and badder things as they progress.
Right.
As characters to higher levels and more ability and so on and so forth. So the game is still challenging to them, but yet they have something they can meet the challenge with. The thing is, you want to get this into an SFB kind of thing. Well, therein lies the big question: is at what level are the players going to be engaged in your long-term campaign or your never-ending campaign? Because a never-ending campaign is going to be something like having a group of people that play continuously. And that could just be people that get together for scenarios. They get together for different aspects of the game. It could also be that you lay out a map and say, okay, there's all these different factions. You're going to interact with them as a player, as a warlord, or as an ensign starting from your frigate and working your way up through the fleet. But the core of it is going to be
a viable means of progression is really important.
You have to lay out the world first and tell us what are you want for the game to be. In an SFB thing, you're pretty much not going to have that except as having a group that wants to do different setups, different scenarios. They want to do their own pickup games. They want to do their book scenarios to see how they work out. Somebody wants to try out The Mighty Hood Goes Down just to see if they can survive it. Somebody else might want to do something else. But if you want to have a never-ending campaign, when you say campaign, that infers structured universe that you're living with in that changes over time based on the players' interactions with it. And when I was running the the Rollmaster campaigns and the Cthulhu campaigns, the players had a lot of NPC interaction, and literally you had players who got their characters married off and raised families and things like that. You had political stuff. You had, depending upon the game and the thing, you had people interacting with different organizations. And the thing is, how are you going to fit that into what you want to do? That's kind of my take at the moment. So if you define to me what universe they're going to be working in, what things they're going to be doing, then that gets us to a better point of reference for what do you want to do. What should you throw into it? How can you maintain it in the long run? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, back in the 90s, when I was still part of the battle group Little Rock at the time, the end all and be all of our quote unquote never ending campaign dreams and aspirations was what they called the Big Nasty, where you played the strategic side on an F&E on an F&E map with F&E rules to set the ships and whatnot. And whenever you had a combat take place, you don't use F&E's combat system. You push all that over to Starfleet battles, and there's your weekend.
That is your weekend for one battle, yeah.
Yeah. Because it sounds like it'd be really fun, and it probably would be if everybody involved in it was able to put 40 hours a week on this like their profession. Unfortunately, most of us have bills to pay.
Very true. Very true.
But it is an interesting concept. If you want to keep the players engaged, you need to have a progression, and the progression needs to be logical. Okay, are you going to turn around? Is it instant captain, just add drama, or are you going to start off skippering an escort and a carrier group commanded by somebody else, where you work your way up into getting your own command of a frigate squadron before getting a and so on and so forth. There's all kinds of ways to go through these kinds of progressions, and even recycling it back to zero, and you've hit the end of the tree, as long as you've got ways to filter in little tidbits. Okay, so you got to the end of this season, so when we start next season, you're going to start with so many points towards an outstanding crew or something like that. But it's just one of these things. If the players are engaged, they will come back and play anything you lay out before them.
Right.
The trick is keeping them engaged.
Understood. And I like the idea of seasons. And basically, obviously, this is assuming for a campaign that gets enough player involvement, because you have to have that.
Right.
Player involvement, you got nothing. But the whole idea of seasons, I think, is a great idea, where you basically possibly restart, not quite from scratch, but the world or the universe, whatever. In the case of Starfleet Battles, or even Federation Commander, gets reset with every season, and then depending
it's a
upon
concept in video games called a roguelike, because that's the way most of the roguelike games play. You build your experience, you build your skills, you build your talents, and even when you get killed and you start over, you don't start over from zero, you start over where you left off.
Mm-hmm.
But you might not want to go quite that far. But the thing is that maybe one season you're fighting on the Romulan border, and the next season you're fighting as the Kazenti on the Hydran border or the Klingon border,
Mm-hmm.
and then just pepper it around so that it stays fun, fresh, and interesting for everybody.
Everyone's gonna fight the Andromedans.
Oh, that's the BBEG when you get ready to end the season. The Andromedans come in and just wipe everybody out. Particularly if you've got an Andy in the group that knows how to play them.
Yep. Agreed. But yeah, actually that's an interesting idea. Fighting different conflicts basically. For each season, and then instead of having you keep your ships, what you do is at the end of maybe a season, you have so many points which you've accumulated, and then you can purchase whatever ships and extra doodads for your ship or ships, for the next season.
Right.
And I think that'd be kind of cool. I like that idea. Tough part, obviously, is getting people engaged and playing the combats, because I understand when it comes to especially SFB and even FedCom can be this way, which is it can take a long time to actually resolve a single scenario, a single game. Might take you 6 hours. Now, obviously, if you have buy-in from the players, 6 hours might not be that difficult to do. I know the issue that Aaron Staley had, and I think it was the Void War campaign when he ran that, was resolution in a timely fashion. Now, that campaign was a little different.
AI5 UK. Kilo India 5, uniform Kilo.
Okay. I'm going to mute Jeff just for a moment. It sounds like he's talking to somebody out of his truck. Now I'll unmute him in just a little bit of time. But, yeah, as long as I think you give players enough time, and it was interesting and fun to play, because a lot of times when you one of the reasons why you do kind of a strategic map with also a tactical component is because you want to make the tactical component interesting and engaging to the players. Everyone's played a duel, this ship or this number of ships that you select against this number of ships, but they want to go to a step further, and in that step further they want to actually have it so those combats mean something into another the next battle, next combat, or possibly even a larger campaign. And that's the reason why people want to be involved in a campaign to begin with. Yeah, I understood Iggy. Iggy just mentioned he doesn't like campaigns of SFB. I can understand that because again, the biggest issue with SFB and FedCom usually is the length of the games involved, especially if you have larger fleets. Because I've actually played one which was a relatively large fleet. It was like, thinking about this for a moment, it was like 5 ships or 5 ships, and he had fighters too, because he had hydrants and all that kind of nasty stuff. So it took a while. It took us, I think, 3 sessions to resolve combat to the point where we go, okay, one person disengages or the other person disengages, because of it. It's obvious that they're not going to win, and That's also another thing which is, to me, interesting, which is with when you have a campaign and you're flying a scenario, a tactical scenario for a campaign. If you realize that, hey, if I completely lose my ship, that's a lot of resources down the tube. You're less likely to fight to the death. I understand in some cases those kind of combats can be quite interesting, but the question is, what if you fight to the death? What is the value in that for the overall campaign? Well, you might let's say you have a damaged ship, which you can say, okay, that ship's going to be out. Is going to take a full turn to repair. So if it's not involved in combat, okay, it takes a turn to repair all the systems that were destroyed in that combat. But if they're in the next turn, if they're involved in combat, then okay, how much you have? Maybe half repairs. So you choose half the boxes that get repaired. The shields are automatically repaired, but the boxes themselves don't always get repaired. In which case, okay, that adds to the flavor of the next scenario, because if you have your ships and the opponent's ships withdraw from it, but you've really damaged his ship, he's not able to. But neither one of you will be able to completely repair your ships if you engage combat next turn. Obviously, if you lose, then you have to kind of withdraw from the hex, possibly from where you once came, which is basically what happens. Actually, Starfleet Warlord is a little different. Starfleet Warlord, what you do is that if you have a possibility of combat, the first thing that happens is that you compare attack and defense factors, and if the person coming into the hex, if their attack factor isn't strong enough, then he goes, oh, nope, I'm not going to do this combat, and he withdraws. So let me bring Jeff back. Jeff, you there?
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Sometimes you're not quite as private as you think you are.
Understood. Which is why I muted you.
No worries.
But
was it a lot less people?
No, it was another truck driver asking about my HF antennas on my truck, wanting to know my call sign and trying to be friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Because I've got a 20-meter antenna on one end of the truck and a 2-meter antenna on the other.
I have an invader.
Seems to be the thing going around tonight.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
I looked at that on the floor. Pick that up.
hey, well, the local Zindy has not been showing his face, so for me, it's been relatively quiet along those sides.
I haven't seen you get jumped by the Kazini yet.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
He's banished the cat.
My guess is that he's been interested in what my better half has been doing, because she made up some popcorn, and my guess is the cat was interested in the popcorn earlier, and then possibly even settled in and went to sleep.
Oh look, food. Bye.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love. Wait. I love you. No, wait. Food. Okay, bye.
Exactly. Of course, the weird part about the orange kitty is that he does not like beef. Really weird. And he doesn't like canned cat food. So
Okay.
that's weird. I have 4 cats. The other 3, they're perfectly happy with canned cat food. Now beef, Katara, the next youngest, she doesn't like beef. She likes chicken. That's hers. Hers is chicken. She doesn't like ham. Doesn't like beef. She likes chicken. Okay, fine. Now, the oldest, Brandy, she likes almost anything. You know, likes ham, likes chicken. I think she likes beef. Actually, I'm pretty sure she likes beef, and definitely likes canned cat food. All three, the other three, they like the canned cat food. So, and lately I've been trying to have it so they eat more protein, i.e., I give them a treat every single night and of a can of cat food, which I share between three of them, because I know the normal Zitty who comes and visits me, he does not like canned cat food. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
cats can be that way. At least you don't have. Oh gosh, I remember years and years ago. This is before we had a good place to play at a comic store. We were at somebody's house, and their kid brought a cat home. They weren't
Oh.
allowed to have cats inside. The cat came to find where the adults were because, of course, the cat's going to run away from the children, and the children's going to chase the cat. Children are the 5 to 7 range, so yeah. At maximum entropy occurred, uh, the great cat the great space cat wiped
Oh.
out the entire scenario.
Oh. As soon as you started going down that road, I heard that ending. I heard that ending coming so fast. Because, oh yeah.
We almost had everything put back together. We managed to it wasn't that the scenario wasn't that complex, but we managed to put almost everything back together. Then the cat jumps on top of the map and just starts going pat 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 pat. I don't think we ever found all the
Oh.
counters again.
I'm sure at some point you found those counters.
That's what.
Might be a year later, but you found the counters.
I think some of them were down in the floor vent registers.
Oh yeah, yeah. Been there, done that.
uh,
My last house had vents and so forth. This place is too old to have
and
vents.
that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I am thoroughly thrilled that the Amarillo Design Bureau believes in stocking and selling spare parts.
Agreed.
Uh,
Yeah, that was one thing that I was looking at tonight, and I've got to talk to Staples to see what kind of poster board is it. And that is, since ADB at the moment does not really think it's in their best interest to create cards for the gunboat, Funcom gunboats. People have to make the cards themselves, is what it comes down to. So,
right?
given that, I want to figure out how much it would cost me to create the cards myself. So I figured Staples is the best place at least to start because that's easy to do. I'm willing to bet there's other places that other print shops that could possibly do it.
Staples could get it done. Kinko's could get it done. The problem is that a local store will do a better job all around and probably be cheaper
Mm-hmm.
in the long run,
What
even
you
if the
got-
per unit cost is a little higher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so far the one I have to check to see how many cards there are. And the one thing I want to know about the poster boards because they looks like they have exactly what they did for the cards. But my question is, when they create, because what it costs like $38 for 9 of them. So I mean, 9 pages, which might be 18 ship cards. So, given that the question is, can I cut them up? It looks like it's kind of laminated, but the question is it laminated or is it just a part of the actual poster board? So
it's probably a layer. It's probably a layered process where it's a plasticine layer that's a little more complex than your traditional clamshell lamination.
Mm-hmm. So it would be a bad idea to cut it, you think?
No, you just have to make sure that you have a print house that can do the multi-layer printing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
What I'm saying is they're more like modern driver's licenses in that they've got multiple layers. You've got the plastic layer on the bottom, and then you've got the substrate of the backing. Then you've got the center layer. Then you've got the substrate on the top, and then you've got the plastic layer on the top. After you get it all done, there's no problem with cutting them to size. It's just like a galley sheet of playing cards, or for that matter, the galley sheet poster that they sell, that ADB sells of Starfleet Battle Force.
Yeah, let me simplify this in the most simple way possible for you.
Okay.
Ask a local printer to do the job for you at the size that you want using their standard paper. They might be able to do multiples on a page. And then just cut the card stock and laminate them. That's probably the easiest, least expensive way of doing that to get where you want to be with having cards for those.
Okay.
Yeah, that's probably the wisest course for that. The only other thing I could think of is to do that, but take some of the stock cards from your collection with you.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say, this is what they used to make, and this is kind of what I want. Can you get me close to this?
Right.
Even if it is to just put the cards out and then laminate them yourself.
Right.
Yeah, because I've used a local for the gamer stuff for ages, and they do a much better job. And,
yes. They've got people who are actually printers as a profession rather than printers as a college expedient.
Understood. Yeah, I've got. Yeah. Oh, understood. Yeah, I know of. We use a local printer for my archery club. I don't know where he's located. I don't think it's quite local to me as it's local to them, because I drive 20 to 25 minutes to get to my archery club. So.
My God, that's so local.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Well, to me, local is like a 15-minute drive.
Really wedding or something, but yeah.
But yeah, I'll check to see what are the local print shops around here.
Yeah, if you also want to talk off board about some like printing options and stuff like that, I'm all for it.
Mm-hmm.
Late afternoon or in the evenings usually. So.
Understood. Yeah, because the reason why I brought it up to Steve Cole to begin with is because when it comes to playing like physically on a physical board, I actually would like to have it so that I have the cards. I have good card stock cards. Not really thick, but not flimsy. I'm not printing out on paper, and then doing the whole SFB thing, where you put it behind a piece of plastic, plastic sheet.
The Starfleet condom.
Yeah.
Oh, I still remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
You used to play with those all?
Yes.
They worked.
Yes, they worked well. And it meant that you didn't have to spend 8 cents a piece at the local copy stop to make copies of however many ships for that weekend scenario.
You might still have to make the copies, but you just don't have for the first time. But next scenario, you actually have extra copies laying around.
Well, we saved our money for. Well, I don't know if the statute of limitations is expired on that or not. Never mind.
Oh, dude,
And
one time
But
when I was in the Army, I went to a printer and literally printed out what I thought I would need for when I was like stationed at a hardship station and took it with me. Just had it shipped out to me
mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I wasn't
oh,
sure if I'd be able to do what I had to do out there.
oh, understood. Yeah, it's completely. I know that ADB allowed copying of the SSDs for local usage. As long as you don't
oh yeah,
try to sell them, they were fine with it. Because obviously they can't expect you to buy like 5 or 10 copies of module R1. Obviously that'd be very nice for them, but they can't expect that to happen. So you have 10 copies of the same ship. You know.
Yeah, well, this was also the days before companies said things like, "We need to monetize our player base better." So.
Yes.
yeah. Let's not talk about the Games Workshop sin.
Oh no, not just them.
Not just
Remember that
them.
recent fire?
I know,
The
it wasn't just them. They're just the ones that have the most animus in the gaming
and they
world
cut.
over it.
Yeah, and they cut their own throats on it. So.
Yeah, they did.
And life is good. Life moves on.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, well, gentlemen, I think I will end it for this evening. I think it's a good place as ending to stop. It's been a pleasure talking to you this evening. I hope you have a wonderful night. Doug?
You too. Hey, can I throw in one quick alibi on that?
By all means.
On the campaign thing.
Mm-hmm. Go
It's like, yeah, it's not everybody's cup of tea necessarily, but I think really if you wanted to run a campaign, that the thing to do would be survey all the people that would be interested in it and see what level of participation they would want to do if they're interested in it in the first place. Like, what kind of campaign do they want to have within that universe that you're setting up?
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. That's all I got. If you want to give me a holler sometime, that's fine.
Okay. Cool. Well, Doug, you have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.
It's been
Jeff?
lovely as always. Such an
Yep.
interesting topic to go on about tonight.
Agreed. The big thing about it, obviously, is participation, as Doug pointed out, and
Yeah.
that will define what kind of campaign that it could be, and whether it would be a rolling campaign. As you pointed out, the whole idea of season, which is a great idea, or a purely never-ending campaign, something like EVE Online.
Right.
So, well, Jeff, you have a good night, and you stay safe out there.
I'll do it. Have a
Okay.
good one, everybody.
You too. Bye. So, I had a nice discussion about the Never Ending Campaign, threw a little baseball in there, and of course, Federation Commander. And Lord knows, if anybody out there who is listening to my voice or watching the video, hi, knows about a good place, not necessarily a good place, but a good process for creating the cards, please contact me. If your local print shop does this, and this, tell me about it. I'll be happy to talk to my local print shops about it, and at least then I know, I have an idea of how to do it. What to ask for from the print shop. Okay? So with that, I am Paul Franz, and I bid you a good night.